The holidays can be one of the toughest times for a lot of people because it brings up a lot of different things. Sometimes we have conflict within our family, or we have obligations that we have to attend to that we don't really want to attend to, or it brings up old grief and old trauma. It's harder to manage addictions or that kind of stuff. It all comes up often over the holidays. And this is a time that I kind of consider a really vulnerable time for a lot of my clients, because it's more likely that they'll be tempted to relapse, or they'll really struggle and maybe go into kind of a really down place or a really depressive place. So I want to help you guys come up with some ways that can help this. So how do we know that we're going into the holidays and it's going to be tough, likely? Maybe you've struggled in the past. So what do we do that can help that? Well, the first thing I want to talk about is figuring out what you have to do and you want to do versus what you think you have to do. Because a lot of times when I sit down with people and we look at all of the things that they think they have to do, that's not necessarily true. Maybe you do want to spend Christmas Day with your family, or Thanksgiving Day with your family, or maybe you just feel obligated because your parents or your mom or your siblings or someone will be really upset if you don't, and you feel like that's something that you should do. Well, maybe that is true, but do you need to spend a couple days there? Do you need to spend one day there? Do you need to spend an afternoon there? We can kind of play with the time, and we can also decide exactly what we need to be there for and what maybe we can skip on. So you don't have to do everything. There's so many parties and events and things that are surrounding this, and things that we think we have to do, but we don't. So I really like people to sit down and say, okay, a lot of times I hear that they don't want to do anything, but they feel like they have to and they should do something. So what are the most important things for you? Maybe even list them. Okay, like these two things are the most important, then this, then this, then this. Then we can start to cut things out, because you don't have to continually put yourself in spaces that are difficult for you. You don't have to spend crazy amounts of time with your family when your family causes stress and depression and anxiety and relapse, and that you don't have to spend that time with them. So really be clear on what you want to do and maybe what you feel obligated to do, and try to cut out some of the rest, because we don't have to spend all of our energy on things that we don't want to do. That's one of the reasons why the holidays bring up so many struggles for people, because they overextend themselves in a way and with people who really aren't good for them, and then they struggle to cope and to manage, right? So really be clear on what you have to do, and try to cut out things that you don't have to do, or maybe cut the time down. I've had a lot of clients over the years cut their time that they visit their family down because it's such a struggle for them, but they still want that family time, so they go in just for the weekend, or just for a day, or just for 2 days, instead of spending even more time. And a lot of times our families aren't happy about that, but we have to make the choice that's best for us. And then you can deal with the guilt and the stuff that you get from your family, but just know that you need to take care of you, and that needs to be the top of the list right now. So think about that and kind of evaluate that. Some of the other things that I do, and I kind of help people to do when they're prepping to go into a situation, is that we plan for the sort of exit, the step away from a conversation. So a lot of times, and maybe you can think about this right now too, a lot of times we know the conversation that's going to happen that's going to lead us down the wrong path. Maybe your sibling or your uncle or your dad says something, and every time you go home they say something like that, and it just sets you off. And a lot of times it's hard to not engage in that. Maybe it starts an argument, maybe it just kind of explodes from there. So if we know those kind of things happen, we can prep for that, and we can prep for our exit from that situation. And that is something that a lot of families push back against as well, because if you're usually there all the time, or you're You respond back to somebody when they try to drag you into a power struggle, essentially. People don't like it when you change that, but that is what's best for you. So sometimes with people, I'll help them come up with maybe even a sentence, because it's so hard to remove yourself from that situation when you're triggered, or maybe not even say anything. Maybe just remove yourself completely and you step away. You go for a walk, you go to the store, you go to a room where you can be alone. That space is really important to get through this, because if you're always on and you're always getting hit with things, it becomes really overwhelming. And that's when some of my clients turn to using or being tempted to use again, because they're so overwhelmed and so stressed. So we want to build in ways to exit situations and exit conversations and go into a space where you can sort of breathe and recoup and just be alone. And again, that's not going to be popular often, especially if you need a little more time to yourself, or maybe you leave a family gathering or you go into another room or something. That's often not popular. But again, this is about you. This is about taking care of you. You want to be there for your family and you want to do what you can, but you need to take care of yourself first in this. So remember that when you're getting that pushback. So I also like to prep things not only that you can do to sort of ground yourself when you step away from those issues and you're by yourself and you maybe need to reset, but also things that you can just do on a regular day, every day, to kind of ground yourself. So we'll prepare maybe a music playlist that you can listen to that makes you happy or makes you feel okay or helps you kind of breathe and calm down. So that's ready. Maybe you have some movies or a Netflix series ready that when you need to step away and disconnect from everything, you can just go and kind of watch that and just disconnect for a little while and distract. Maybe plan for some things you want to do outside of the family, some stores that you want to go to, maybe a new hiking trail to try. I even have some people do like Pinterest boards to remind them that they're okay, maybe some motivational quotes and just things that you can have, and they're simple, but they really are really powerful, because when you step away from something that's harmful and just doesn't feel good, and you can reset back into, okay, I'm okay, I can do this, I'm okay. Because often when we get around family, old trauma comes up, old reactions come up, and we start sort of functioning in a way that maybe we did before we went through some of our healing or before we went through some growth. So that kind of happens, and it can set us sort of on a negative path and kind of push us in a way that's not good. So if we can have things that reground us into ourselves and into being happy and being confident and maybe even just reinforcing that you're okay, those things are really, really helpful. It's also helpful to have outlets and people that you can talk to. So maybe, let your friends know, like, oh man, this holiday season is going to be really hard for me, or, this day I know is going to be tough. Like, I may message you, kind of give them the heads up that you may need some support. I also have some of my clients do that with me, where if we know that something is going to be really hard, we plan a check-in and they check in with me, do a quick phone call, maybe a quick message, just to check in with me, check in with themselves, sort of forces them to do that and helps them process and get out what's going on. Because the other piece of this is that we often can't totally be ourselves when we're with some of our family, and we have all of this emotion and these things that just sort of pile up and we can't express it, so then it ends up coming out in different ways. Maybe that's something negative that you say to somebody, or you take it out in another way. But if you have outlets or people that you can talk to, you can vent about, you can process, you can regroup, that really helps, and it helps you from going down a really negative path that you don't want to go down. So prep for that. Reach out to me if you need any help with that, or you need help kind of preparing your specific kind of really plan into going into the holidays or going into certain events. I can definitely help with that. So let me know, try these things out, and please comment if you have any questions or anything else that you want me to cover.